Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 63 of the Drop It podcast. This podcast is tailor-made for those of you with weight to lose, those of you that are losing weight now, and those of you that are bathing in the success of your weight loss accomplishment. If it's your first time on the show, you've got a lot of podcasts to go back and catch up on, and I promise that binging a podcast is much better than binging any type of food. So go give them a listen. My name is Nick Geoppo. I'm your host. I lost and gained back 50 plus pounds 6 different times in my life before finally losing 110 pounds in 2019 and keeping it off for what has now been almost 6 years. This podcast is really built for people that are interested in sustainability, mindset, relationship with food, and lifestyle changes over time. Those are the things that you have to master if you want to actually put obesity behind you in a way that doesn't suck. The reason why you haven't heard a lot of these perspectives before is because most people that have lost weight still exist in some sort of suck. And that's not what I wanted. I know it's not what you want either too, which is why you're still listening to this podcast. So let's get the weight off and let's keep the weight off forever. Today, we're talking about how intermittent fasting almost fucking killed me. And this is something that people are not going to agree with. That's fine. This was my journey, and this is also the journey of a bunch of the people that I work with on their own weight loss journeys as well. Have had the same experience. So your journey might be a little different. Now, not everyone's exactly the same. Here was my experience. And while I tell you my experience, compare it to yours, right? You and I aren't the exact same people, but we definitely have a lot of similarities, I'm sure. And look at not what's worked for you. Losing weight is, when something works, that doesn't mean that it led to weight loss. Something working means that it led to permanent results. So we're going to be talking about intermittent fasting. You might go, yeah, intermittent fasting worked for me. It's like, no, it didn't, because here we are. From love, I love you, right? It's not from a place of, no, it fucking didn't, but it didn't, because here we are, right? That being said, let's get into it. So when I lost weight the last time, it was in 2019 into 2020 a little bit, but mostly 2019. And I was eating 3 square meals a day. And that felt a lot better to me. COVID started February 2020. I had already lost like 80 or 90 pounds or so at that point. And I was working out a lot. After I had lost all the weight, I started running. I never ran for weight loss, but I started running to keep the weight off. And what would happen is I'd go on these really, really long runs. And then I was living in Portland, Oregon, which was the worst place in the world. Like, your political views aside, right? I'm not a particularly political person. Political views aside, Portland, Oregon was a really fun place to live before COVID. And then COVID happened and it became one of the worst places in the world to live. Like, one of the worst places in the world. It was illegal to go outside. Right? I mean, you could not be outside without a mask on. All the parks were closed. All the waterfalls, all the nature was closed. All the restaurants were closed. That's what Portland is. It's bars, restaurants, waterfalls, and nature. And it was all shut down for like 6 months, right? So I was spending a lot of time inside, and I started getting stressed out about gaining the weight back. I still had a little bit of weight to lose, but I'd lost like 80 or 90 pounds. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't do as much stuff. Can't really go outside. So I'm going to be inside more, cooped up. When you're cooped up and not doing shit, and can't socialize, most people eat different and eat a little worse when they're just sitting at home alone, right? Which was my situation. Me and my roommate, this was, like 5 years ago. I can't believe I had a roommate. I could not go back to having a roommate. Much love to my old roommate if he's listening to this. You're a great roommate, brother. It's not you, it's me. That being said, my idea was that I can keep the weight off if I just start intermittent fasting. And this was beginning of 2020. Everyone online started talking about intermittent fasting this, intermittent fasting that. And it was like this big fad, right? And it was almost like all of these people that previously thought that breakfast was the healthiest meal of the day, but they never ate it anyway because they just like didn't have time. And I'm throwing up air quotes if you're watching this on YouTube. They then started going, I told you guys, I've been intermittent fasting my whole life. And it's like, you actually didn't know that there were any health benefits to that until people started talking about it on Instagram. Like, that's what actually happened with intermittent fasting. That was like 5 years ago, 2020, right? February 2020, exactly 5 years ago. And my idea was, okay, I'm going to start intermittent fasting for 2 reasons. One is if I eat 2 meals a day instead of 3, then I'm going to consume less calories. It'll be easier for me to not gain weight back because I'll be eating less calories. But the second reason was the hormonal benefits, and as a guy, the testosterone benefits and the energy that I'm going to have in the morning from not eating, and I'm going to put all this time into other things that I love and more movement. And it's like, yeah, we'll give it a try, right? So I started intermittently fasting. I just cut out breakfast. And by the time that I would get to lunch, keep in mind, I've already lost like 80 or 90 pounds at this point. By the time I would get to lunch, I would be... hungry is not the right word. There's a difference between hunger and depletion, right? I was depleted. Like I felt kind of weak. It felt cravings. It was more cravings than hunger. It was like I just had a need for satiation. It wasn't like my stomach is growling. It was like the food is pulling me. That's not exactly the same. That's hunger versus cravings. They're not always the same, right? And the food is pulling me. I really would start thinking about food a lot. It would start consuming my mind. I'd be really excited to eat. There's nothing wrong with being excited to eat, but if you're really excited to eat all the time, like that's a fucking problem because we got other shit that we're trying to focus on in life. And if food is controlling all of your mental headspace, then it's like, that's a problem. It's part of the issue that led to your obesity in the first place. And that's an issue that you've developed through eating a lot of processed foods and relying on food as a sole source of great dopamine for yourself. And that's a whole different episode, right? But that all being said, I would get to lunch and I'd be like, man, I'm really excited to eat. And I would just eat a little bit of a bigger lunch than what I typically would have. Not every day. Some days a lot bigger lunch. Some days just a little bit bigger lunch. And then by the time I'd get to dinner, I'd be like, yeah, I got to eat. I'm not going to eat again until lunch tomorrow. And I might have a late lunch, like an afternoon lunch. So I might not eat for like 18 or 20 hours, right? So I got to get a big dinner in. So I'd eat a big dinner and I'd wake up the next morning having actually eaten more, as much or more as I would have if I just ate breakfast and had 3 square meals because my lunch and dinners were bigger, right? And I'd wake up the next morning and be like, oh, I'm going to go work out, go run outside, right? And then I would come home for, lunch, and I was working from home at the time. It was just a shit show of being stuck in my apartment in Portland in 2020. And just a fucking, what a depressive point in my life. Oh my God. But I was excited that I'd lost all this weight. I was fearful that I'd gain all the weight back, right? And the cycle would just continue. Eat a bigger lunch, bigger dinner, no breakfast. Bigger lunch, bigger dinner, no breakfast. And I'm not gaining weight because I'm staying active and I'm not overeating a ton, right? But I'm just like kind of living in this, kind of stuck in the cycle of I'm still thinking about food a lot. Like I'm obsessing about food. Okay, well, now I got to figure out my calories. Now I got all this. And I'm like, this isn't really what I wanted, So this isn't working. Intermittent fasting, 2 meals a day doesn't work for me. I'm going to try 1 meal a day. So I dropped down to 1 meal a day. OMAD is the term that people use. OMAD, 1 meal a day, OMAD. And that involves just eating dinner. So I would wake up, go on a walk or go on a run, come home, and wait until dinner to eat. And this is when shit got really bad for me. This is probably going into April now of 2020. So months after I had already lost 80 or 90 pounds. And I would get to dinner. And the first day, I'll never forget, the first day I just ate like a normal sized dinner. I was like, oh, that's not that bad. Woke up the next morning and it was like, I got to wait till dinner to eat. Was just starving all day. Got to dinner, ordered Red Robin delivered, and then Dairy Queen delivered. And I ate it all. And then the next morning I'd wake up, I'd be super food hungover, and I'd get the same order again. I would do it again and again and again and again and again and again. And to give you an idea of how obsessive this was for me and what a low point this was for my life, this is what I ordered. Red Robin, I would get DoorDash, a Whiskey River barbecue chicken sandwich. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm not reading this anywhere. This is off of the dome. It's been 5 years since I've been to Red Robin or Dairy Queen. I still know the exact order. Red Whiskey River barbecue chicken sandwich, crispy fried instead of grilled. No tomato, mayo, and barbecue sauce on the side because when they deliver it, it gets like hot and melted and it sogs the bun a little bit. No tomato. I'd get the lettuce on the side sometimes too. I would sub blue cheese crumbles for the cheddar cheese that comes with it. And then I would get French fries. And then you click the free extra side of fries because Red Robin gives you free fries when you're in there, unlimited. When you get it delivered, they just give you the free side. You get one free side, right? Then I would get the extra seasoning. I used to call it armpit seasoning because it kind of smells like BO in like the weirdest way ever, but it tastes fucking amazing, right? Their fry seasoning. If somebody on this podcast knows what I'm talking about, and the fact that no one else has ever said that before is fucking crazy. It does kind of smell like BO, but it tastes amazing. I would get 2 ranches and 1 barbecue and then a nacho cheese sauce. And then I would get a double appetizer of jalapeno coins, which is like fried pieces of jalapeno with mozzarella sticks. And then while that was getting delivered, I'd order it. And then I would create a second order. So now when you get something delivered, you can have them pick up 2 places. You couldn't do that before. So if you wanted 2 things delivered, you'd have to get them delivered at the same fucking time, right? I would get a Dairy Queen Blizzard large, typically just the Heat Bar one, just plain. I'm an old soul. At the time it was 2020, but I'm an old soul and I love Heath Bar in 100 grand bars. Like those are my 2 favorite candies, and like honeycomb with chocolate on it. Those are my 3 favorite candies. But Heath Bar Blizzards from Dairy Queen, I think, are fucking God's gift or the devil's gift to this planet, depending on how you look at it. I would get those delivered at the same time. And I would eat. I was also like smoking weed sometimes too at this point. So I'd go all day and not eat and then smoke some weed with like the intention of getting ready for my food coma, right? And I would eat exactly half of all of that. Like I'd cut the sandwich in half, 1 side of fries, half of the sauces, half of the double appetizer. And then I would eat half of the Blizzard, which for those of you that aren't in the US, I don't know if Dairy Queen is international. It's like a really thick ass cup of ice cream, like 1,200, 1,400 calories in the ice cream alone. And that whole meal together is in the 5,000 to 6,000 calorie range, right? Maybe a little bit less than that, depending on whether or not I ate all the sauces. And I would eat half of it and I'd lay down and like watch YouTube or do some stupid shit on Netflix for 2 hours. And then I would come back and I would eat the second half of it. And I did this every single night for months. Like for months. Now, this is the definition of binge eating, right? And the reason why intermittent fasting almost killed me is because it led to me developing an issue with binge eating. Most people's journeys are a little different, where they're doing a lot of binge eating when they are fat. I did that, of course, too, right? I mean, I was like I wouldn't have said that I was a binge eater, but I was a drastic overeater, right? I wasn't regularly binging when I was fat. I was just overeating constantly all the time. I started binge eating after I already lost 80 or 90 pounds, and I didn't know what was happening at the time. I was just hooked on the food and trying this 1 meal a day thing. Then I got stuck in this cycle without even being able to really recognize it, of keeping the weight off through 1 meal a day, fasting, high calorie meals, and then over exercising in the morning, and then just being starving all day, but feeling like shit. I'd wake up, my difference in weight between morning and night, because I would weigh myself like 10 times a day, was sometimes like 7 or 8 pounds. Like I'd wake up, I would be lighter in the afternoon than I would be in the morning, because I'd be so bloated from all the shit that I ate in the morning that I'd be heavier in the morning. And then I'd weigh myself right before I ate my food. I'd weigh 4 pounds less, right? Then I'd eat all the food that night, weigh 4 pounds more. Next morning, weigh even more from all the water retention. And this cycle just owned me. Food absolutely ran. Dairy Queen fucking owned my ass. Red Robin absolutely owned my ass. And I had no idea when I was in it. I was just like, yeah, it's good. I'm not really gaining weight a little bit. I'm gaining some weight, but I'm not gaining back. That I'm 90 pounds down, man, in the last year. That's why I was looking at it, right? And what it took for me to break the cycle, for those of you, this is a very extreme story. Your story might not be as extreme, but I push myself to the extremes in all of these things, right? The way to get out of this cycle, even if your version of this is substantially not as extreme as mine, which I hope that it isn't, because it fucking sucked, right? I don't wish that on anybody. Maybe my own worst enemies. I'll wish that on my own worst enemies, but assuming that they're not listening to this podcast, then I don't wish this on you as a listener. The way to get out of it is you stop fasting. Stop fasting. And the reason this came up is because I have a client of mine who I've been working with for a long time recently switched their breakfast into the afternoon. So they, instead of doing breakfast, lunch, dinner, they wanted to try doing lunch and then like a late afternoon meal and then a dinner. And that's the same amount of calories. But what it does is it changes the way you feel about your first meal, right? Because you go into that first meal with a little bit of a different mindset of like, oh, I haven't eaten in a long time. I deserve the food a little more. The food hits a little different when you haven't eaten in a while. I'm not here to say there's no benefits to fasting, right? But I'm here to tell you that for a lot of people, there is a correlation between fasting and overeating. And there is a correlation between overeating and binging, especially when it's taken to the extreme. If you're working through binge eating, I don't like saying binge eating disorder. Like the eating disorder community does not like me because the things that I teach are not as PG as the binge eating disorder, as the eating disorder space likes things to be, right? And that's just what it took for me to work through this. That's what I see the most success with my clients that struggle with any form of emotional eating, coping, or binge eating. It's not this whole like sweet little hand-holding process. It's like, let's step back into common sense and get really fucking real about the fact that food controls you right now. This is how to work through food. Let's get control back of your fucking life, right? No therapist is going to tell you that. And no binge eating coach or coping or emotional eating coach is going to tell you that. They're going to, oh, it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. You control food. No, come on. Here's how you get out of binge eating, the cycle that I just described to you, that I was in forever. Eat breakfast. That's literally, if someone would have just fucking grabbed me by the throat and been like, eat breakfast even if you don't feel like it. Now, this is the piece that gets a little edgy, right? It's a gray zone area. You don't want to be force feeding yourself, right? Eat when I don't feel like it. I don't mean like, oh, I don't want to eat, but I'm supposed to, and you're like dreading putting the food into your mouth, like you're so full. You're like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about stepping fully into common sense, where when you wake up, right, you're like, God, I had a huge dinner last night. I'm not going to not eat breakfast or lunch to make up for it. I'm just going to eat something small for breakfast. I'm going to eat some yogurt with some fruit, just a couple hundred calories, just get some protein, some Greek yogurt, get some full fat Greek yogurt. It's still high in protein, right? They're good fat calories for you. They're going to make you feel amazing. And get some fruit for some vitamins. Nature's candy is going to help you control the sweet cravings, help you feel really satiated, a lot of volume for low calories. You just get that meal in with even like a good piece of cheese or something, right? That meal or that snack early in the morning or later in the morning, depending on when you wake up, is going to make it so you are not starving by the time you get to the first meal. And even if you're not starving by the time you get to lunch, if you're not eating breakfast right now, the lunch will not have the same pull on you if you eat breakfast. So when you're eating lunch, you sit there, you kind of scarf it down, you go, I need that meal. You're not going to feel that the same way. I'm so excited for lunch. God, I can't wait for lunch. You're not going to feel that the same way if you already have food in your body, right? So practice eating breakfast. And it might be uncomfortable the first day. Again, don't force feed yourself till you're sick or like developing a further negative relationship with food by making yourself do it even though you don't want to in that way. But eat something small. There's something that sounds kind of good. Eat one bite of something. Like get some food into your body and then watch how different food feels for you for the rest of the day. And you get into that rhythm, right? And now you're eating 3 square meals a day. People say that food they say that breakfast is the healthiest meal of the day because of, I don't know. I don't know why people say that. I think who actually said that first was probably like fucking Honey Nut Cheerios or some kind of fucking cereal company that was trying to sell you sugar for breakfast. I'm not talking about real sugar like fruit and honey. I'm talking about fake sugar like extracted cane sugar put into fucking cereal like Cocoa Puffs and Reese's Puffs, right? They were probably the ones that initially said breakfast is the healthiest day. Breakfast literally break fast. Break fast. You are breaking your fast, meaning that because you're fasting at night, right? Breakfast is meant to break your fast. Not lunch and dinner are not meant to break a fast. It's not lunch fast or dinner fast. It's break fast breakfast. Like that's actually what, have you ever considered that's actually what breakfast means when you write it down? That's literally why it's called breakfast, to break your fast. And it's like we break your fast with a small breakfast. It doesn't need to be a massive breakfast. It makes more sense for your breakfast, lunch, and dinner to be approximately the same caloric intake so that you don't have to have different levels of satiation throughout the day, right? But at the minimum, if you're trying to get out of the cycle, make yourself eat a small breakfast. Just do it. Just do it one time. You're going to feel amazing afterwards. Do it for 2 or 3 days. You're going to feel great. You'll be out of the cycle. This whole like 1 meal a day intermittent fasting thing, it can end right here if you just let it end. Make sure it's a satiating breakfast. Make sure it's something that you don't dislike. Make sure it's something that makes you feel good after you eat it, not just while you eat it. The easiest one ever is yogurt with fruit. That's it. I like to do full fat Greek yogurt. I was doing non-fat for a long time. I do full fat Greek yogurt with a little bit of honey with frozen blueberries. Mix it up, 3 ingredients. It's done in 43 seconds, completely made. I know what a portion size for my calorie goal, which, I'm not losing weight clearly anymore, right? But I know what a normal portion size for my body is, and I just eyeball it, give or take. If I'm a little over, a little under, it doesn't matter. Get to that point with all of your meals. That's what the common sense diet system is on the nutrition aspect, right? So this whole podcast is about mindset. The nutrition side of this is to common sense diet rule number 1 is build your go-to meals. You just have some go-to breakfasts that you know fit inside of your calorie goal. You won't ever have to worry about the calories ever again. If you're stuck in that cycle of fasting that turned into binging, that turned into, oh my God, now I don't know what to do. You know, my favorite influencer said that I should fast. Okay. Your favorite influencer probably wasn't fat. If they are and they're still fasting, they're probably not going to be the kind of person that joins you for brunch on the weekend, right? Like they're just living a limited life. People that say, the one thing that I will say fasting does well is it does give you kind of a different energy if you are properly satiated during the other meals. When I was fat, I couldn't find a way to properly satiate lunch and dinner without drastically overdoing it or sometimes underdoing it when I was skipping breakfast. So if you do a prolonged fast, like a full day fast or a 2 or 3 day fast, you do feel a lot of energy and mental clarity. Stop fasting for weight loss. If you're fat, the best thing that you can do for your health is get to a healthy body weight. After you get to your healthy body weight and maintain it for 12 months, okay, this is just the best roadmap for health, but fasting and for health ever, right? No fasting anymore. No more intermittent fasting. You eat 3 meals a day, right? If you have to eat 2 meals a day, like you can get away with 2 meals a day. 3 is strongly recommended, right? Eat 3 meals a day. Make them quick, small. Make that breakfast small if you need to. Make it something rapid fast that is a whole food, right? Yogurt, fruit, boom, done. Piece of meat, fruit, boom, done. Whatever it is. Eggs, fruit, done. Lose the weight. Keep the weight off for 12 months. If you then decide you want to do some fasting, do that. There's nothing wrong with doing a 1-day fast or a 2 or 3 day fast. Some people are doing 7 to 30-day fasts for health benefits, for cancer prevention benefits, for clear skin benefits. I just did my first fast. I did a 36-hour fast, so technically just 1 full day of eating, but I went dinner to breakfast 2 days later, right? So I went a full day of not eating. I just did that for the first time in 5 years about 2 weeks ago. And I felt amazing, like a ton of mental clarity. I felt like I just kind of got a little, pep back in my step. I couldn't do that when I was fat because it would trigger different shit in me with food. I have a fully healthy and normal relationship with food now. So I can do that and logically be like, yes, I'm going to be hungry. Yes, I know if I properly satiate. Yes, of course I have cravings for food and I'm not fucking eating, right? Like that's how we're designed to not die. Your body doesn't want to starve. But I didn't have any control over that when I was fat. If you're fat, lose weight for health. Do not fast for weight loss. Lose weight first. If you decide you want to play around with fasting after 12 months of keeping the weight off, then give yourself permission to try that and see what happens. Stop fasting for weight loss unless you're going to fast for the rest of your life. You're not going to. Like very, very, very few people actually do. And this isn't to say that intermittent fasting won't work for somebody. There are exceptions to all of these rules. Most of the people that they work for are people that blow the fuck up on social media because everybody wants it to work for them. But it doesn't actually work for that many people. You know, these people that you know that lose weight fasting do not typically keep the weight off in that way. They don't. They typically gain the weight back because they don't want to fast forever. They don't want to juice cleanse forever. They don't want to count all their calories forever. They don't want to not ever eat breakfast ever again. You know? So let's just come back to simplicity. Break fast with breakfast. Small. First thing when you wake up. Eat a small breakfast. Go on a 5-minute, 10-minute walk. Move your body. Get some sunlight. Go to work. Like, step back into common sense. It's okay. It's okay. And you can break that cycle by zooming out and recognizing what is happening. The easiest way to do that is to journal your life. Take a 60-second video every week of what's happening and go back and look at it so you can see the trends. Just answer these questions. How do you feel about life? How do you feel about food? How do you feel about your weight? If you answer those 3 questions for 20 seconds each in a 60-second video, you'll be able to recognize these patterns in yourself, and you'll increase your self-awareness and be able to guide and coach yourself through these specific moments. You absolutely have what it takes to lose weight. You absolutely have what it takes to keep the weight off. Intermittent fasting is not a great solution for the vast majority of people to lose weight. There may be health benefits that health benefits have, but they have more risks to your weight than they do health benefits for most people. right? So lose the weight first and then play around with fasting after you keep the weight off for 12 months. I'm not saying fasting is bad. I'm saying fasting is not the optimal tool for permanent weight loss for most people, including you, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be listening to this podcast. Like that, and that's just like the piece that's like, well, fuck you for saying that. But like, it is the truth, you know? And we're all sitting here going, but fasting worked for me. Like, no, it didn't. It didn't. It worked until it didn't. No, it never worked. It was a waste of fucking time. You're never going to get the time back, you know? Let's not waste any more of our time trying the shit that we already tried before. Eat breakfast. When you're in the cycle, eat breakfast. You absolutely have what it takes to lose weight. You absolutely have what it takes to keep the weight off. You absolutely have what it takes to eat breakfast. Yogurt, fruit. I mean, it's just to eat. Don't eat Reese's Puffs or Cocoa Puffs for breakfast, right? Get a healthy meal in, because when you do it for breakfast, it sets the tone. That's actually the most underrated part of breakfast, is it sets the tone for health. There's very few days where you're going to wake up and like make a really healthy decision for breakfast and then go, oh, fuck it for lunch and eat whatever you want. Fuck it for dinner and eat crazy shit, right? It sets the tone for health. When you eat a small breakfast and go on a 5 to 10 minute walk, you're a healthy person. You're living a healthy lifestyle. Even if you're 290 pounds, if you were to take every 290 pound person and put them all in a warehouse, you're living the healthiest lifestyle out of every single one of them in the world. You might be the healthiest 290 pound person in the world. And it's hard because you look in the mirror and your body is 290 pounds, but your lifestyle is healthy and you just lived a healthy lifestyle for the day, week, month, whatever. But your body's going to catch up to your mind over time, right? So remind yourself, your body's going to catch up to your mind over time. You deserve to eat a healthy breakfast and start your day on the right way. Intermittent fasting almost killed me because I was so fucking sad and felt like such shit about food in my life and the fear of gaining the weight back from how obsessed I was over food from intermittent fasting and one meal a day, causing me to drastically overeat and binge eat and then feel bloated and always have these crazy energy spikes and crashes for literally months, that I didn't really care about being alive anymore. It's not that I wanted to kill myself. I just didn't really fucking care anymore. It's like, oh, I'm just here for food, I guess. I can't really figure out what else is going on. It's all I think about when I feel like shit. So that's not what I want for my life. It's not what I have for my life anymore. And I know it's not what you want for your life either. So play around with eating a small breakfast, even when you don't always feel like it. Even when you have a big dinner plan, and I'm going to skip breakfast because I'm going to eat a bigger dinner. Still eat the breakfast. Get the non-scale victory in the relationship with food win that day. You don't have to lose weight 7 days a week. You should be losing weight week to week. You especially should be losing weight every other week and month to month, right? But you got a big dinner planned for, you know, whatever holidays coming up, birthday, whatever. Do not skip breakfast as a way to have more calories later. Eat a full breakfast so that you don't feel the same pull towards the food when you're eating because you're properly satiated. God, you make that one switch. If you make that one switch, your whole life is going to, well, Nick, that's so simple. Yes. Yes, it is. And what happens when you make that switch is you start making more consistent results and progress over time. And then you start feeling better about your own life because you're not starving and controlled by food the same way. And you start sustainably losing weight, hitting your weight loss goal. And this thing you thought you couldn't do starts coming true. And then you start believing in yourself. And then you start having better sex, making more money, having better relationships, standing taller, looking at people with a straighter eye, with more eye contact, being more confident and getting more of the things you actually truly want for your life. Even the things you don't currently have the courage to state that you want because they feel so far away, they start happening. You become a magnetic achiever. Some people call it skinny privilege. I think skinny privilege is bullshit. I think it's more that you feel better about yourself so other people feel better about you. Doesn't mean you're never discriminated against when you're fat. Of course, fat people get discriminated against. I was fucking one of the fattest people you've ever seen, right? But a lot of the reason why people gave me shit and treated me different was because I felt like shit. And it was clear that I did. And when I started feeling better, it was clear that I felt better, you know, and then I started magnetizing all the things that I wanted into my life. And that actually came from changes as small as practicing adopting the mentality by literally saying out loud to myself that I can break the cycle of doing this by eating breakfast. And by eating breakfast even when I have a large meal planned that night and letting myself have a relationship with food win for the day versus having a weight loss win for the day. I mean, it's so simple, but it changed your whole fucking life. This is one thing that's in the way. It might be the only thing in the way of you making permanent progress. If you made it to the end of the podcast episode, I appreciate you being here. Please give us a a rating on either Spotify or Apple, wherever you're listening. And if you're not on YouTube, we got a very small following on YouTube, still kind of new to this podcast there. But we've got a couple thousand people that listen to this on Spotify and Apple each episode. Jump over to YouTube if you want to see the video. Give me a subscribe. It would really help me. Selfishly, it would just really help me a lot to grow the platform, but it would also really help more people get this message, people like my old self and people like you that might be really benefiting from it. So if I haven't met you and you're a new listener, shoot me a DM or leave us a comment on YouTube and I'll make sure to give you a response. You absolutely can do this. Practice saying it again and again and again and again. I can do this. I am doing this. I can do this. I'm doing this now, not tomorrow, right now. See y'all next week.